Tenkaichi is one of the best fighting manga on the market right now, and today I'll be ranking the very few fights that have come out in the series from worst to best. This doesn't mean that there are any fights that are particularly bad, of course, unless I actually say so. But in my opinion, every single fight in Tenkaichi is absolutely top tier. The art, the direction, the fighting style, everything. Now, there are fights better than another, of course, that's why this entire video exists, basically, but we'll be looking at the fights, I'll be talking about them, and also, please note there'll be spoilers, and this is my favorite fights. You can disagree with me, except for one fight, you can disagree with me on my number one, but the rest are all debatable. Number 4. Adams versus Munenori. This fight was, I mean, can we even call this a fight? Like, at all? Like, Adams just got absolutely slaughtered. It was over for the guy. He did his thing for like a chapter, and Munenori came in and just washed it. It was low diff. It was a low diff. And in terms of, I think, its closest competition, of course, Record of Ragnarok, it hasn't had a fight like that. Like, at all, right? So, this was very, like, surprising to me, like, seeing such a one-sided fight. But again, I'm kind of happy that Adams lost. Now, even though there was a little bit of disappointment that it was just so one-sided. But, you know, if you know anything about Adams and if he had actually won and what he would have done, you're kind of happy that Munenori put this fiend to death. You know, even though Munenori is a fiend in of himself, you're just glad that we're not dealing with this fiend. And even though this is a fairly good fight, it has amazing art and is probably, I would say, the bloodiest fight in the series, just based on Munenori and how brutally he just kills Adam. But that's number 4. Going on to number 3, Musashi versus Honda. Alright, so Musashi versus Honda. Now, this fight is actually the very first fight in the series. It's the opening fight, and I dare say it's the perfect fight to open up with because it introduces a lot of things in the series itself, and well, the fight was fairly entertaining. I'll say that, even though I could kind of see that Musashi was going to win. Like, throughout the entire fight, Musashi is basically radiating main character energy. Like, he looks like a main character, he acts like a main character, everything about him, his talent, all of it was just pointing towards, yeah, this guy, he's a main character, we're probably gonna see him again. And even though Honda was nasty, absolutely nasty as a fighter, he still couldn't get over that main character energy Musashi was giving off. So he does end up losing, of course, but the reason why I think this fight is definitely better than Adams versus Munenori is because of the ending of the fight and how sad it ultimately is, right? It's the only fight that has such a sad ending. Like, I don't remember feeling this way for any of the fights so far, even though they've basically been 4 fights, right? You know, not a lot of room to say that, oh, not all the fights were emotional, but this one had me very sad for the fate of Honda and the way Oda just takes him out, right? And that entire situation was just sad, and it kind of cements the type of series we're watching, the type of characters we are working with here, how horrible they are for the most part, right? Oda isn't a good person by any stretch of the imagination. He's a fiend. Everyone in this series, almost everyone, is a fiend, and they do terrible things, and it was unfortunate, but Honda was basically the victim to Oda's entire thing here, at least in the very end of the fight, right? Number 2. Oh boy, you probably know which one's number 2. Kotaro versus Sagan. Now, a lot of men out there will know exactly why Kotaro versus Sagan is so high up on this very short list, and that's because of Kotaro's huge, humongous, and beautiful personality. So, yeah, her personality is absolutely amazing. I was actually rooting for her the entire fight. I was hoping she would not die because Sagan, to me, looked like he was going to win. He had far more character relevance, at least in terms of his relationship to Oden, the revenge he ultimately wanted. He's a blind, badass old man. I mean, come on. And he's a swordsman too. Kotaro, I mean, look, she's a strong woman. But again, I thought Sagan was gonna somehow win, especially since I predicted the previous fight, which was Musashi versus Honda, where I was like, it was kind of obvious. So I was in the habit basically of like, okay, right, I already know I've predicted one, I'm probably gonna predict another one, and I got hope that I am actually wrong about this one because I really don't want to be right. And you know, the Lord was like, yep, you'll see more of Kotaro. Everyone will get to see her greatness a lot longer. I think the series is better off with Kotaro alive, right? Like, it is what it is. Her personality is just too good. It's just too good, right? But it's also a very amazing fight. Kotaro's backstory is actually pretty sad. I'll say that much. Like, it's something else. Sagan, yeah, it's sad too. Don't get me wrong, but it sounds so bad, but I really didn't care that much, to be completely honest. Even though I saw it as more significant to the entire story, I wasn't rooting for Sagan at like any capacity, like at all. None. So yeah, that's why Kotaro vs. Sagan is number 2, just because of Kotaro. That's it, really. And number 1 is, it's obvious. This one, I think, is complete. It's non-negotiable, right? Kamiizumi versus Hinoko. That is the best fight in the series thus far. Like, absolutely amazing. It is written almost perfectly, if I'm gonna be completely honest, because this was actually right after Adams versus Munenori, and I'm not gonna lie, right? I thought Hinoko was an absolute jobber at the beginning of the fight, like an absolute, like, I thought, what are we doing? Oh my god, the Bushin is gonna destroy this sumo motherfucker. Like, it is what it is. That's what I was thinking. And the moment that mask came off, oh my god, everything changed. Everything changed. The fight went from absolutely mid to the best fight in the entire series. I couldn't believe it. When Hinochoko's face comes off and it's like gods cross paths, or two gods cross paths, ooh, that's when the real battle started. And my lord, Hinochoko was a Chad. He was a Giga Chad. Absolute. And Kamiizumi, he was epic as well. Like, this fight will be basically the standard in which, you know, most of the other fights in the series will be judged by, in my opinion, right? Like, I will always think of this fight in terms of the best fights in the series when I'm looking at the future fights in the series and whether or not they can live up to this fight in particular, because there's a lot of new concepts that were introduced with this fight as well, with the celestial gate and, you know, de-aging and the ability to do what essentially defies the laws of reality, or kind of manipulating them to some extent, right? So this fight was big. This fight was top. If you disagree with me, it's either, again, I can't even imagine a world where people would think, or one person would say, nah, that's actually not the best fight. Unless they are a massive Kotaro fan. Like, even more than me. And now, then again, I'm not exactly a fan, but whoa, there would have to be some massive biases involved with this one. But that's it, right? That's it. From worst to best, those are the best fights in the series in order. So yeah, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff, and I will definitely be covering more of Tenkaichi in the future.